Welcome back to the Genius Maltby channel. Thanks for joining us today for this morning's news, headlines, and discussions regarding the world around us. A lot to talk about. There are so many articles and news items we had to choose from this morning that this could end up being one of our long videos. And I know some of you enjoy a sit-down 25-minute discussion here where we all participate and you guys can join in the comments below, and this may very well become one of those longer videos. So we're going to cover a lot of different topics. We'll see. As you know, these extemporaneous and unscripted videos tend to go off topic at times. We will see where we end up. But we're going to open up today with a little bit of controversy, a little bit of opinions from the other side, and very quickly take it apart. We're not going to go into too much detail, but it's always good to see what some opposing views might tend to believe and expose some of their arguments and open it up for discussion. No economic model, no system, especially any system devised by man, who happens to be very fallible, all of us would have to admit that, is perfect. No system creates a utopia, even though a utopia might be the goal. Capitalism is no different. Communism starved millions of people in the Ukraine, among other atrocities occurring under its name. And but this article here by Forbes, it kind of struck a chord with me because I did get it from one of my socialist friends. As many of you know, I do have friends that do not believe or see eye to eye with me in any way. But they're still friends at times, most of the time. And I didn't even respond to this article. It was just on one of their social media postings, and I read through it, and it's a bunch of claptrap crap. That's what it is. Forbes. Unless it changes, capitalism will starve humanity by 2050. Very alarmist headline, outlandish call. You know, this image that they put up of this, what appears to be a dried, cracked riverbed of mud or old lake bed. I'm surprised there's not a fish skeleton laying there, and the poor little fish itself died and was starved by capitalism. It just seems that so often the theme today is capitalism is both destroying the environment, causing global warming, starving people, and causing war. I don't see that as being the primary causation for all of those horrible events. I think a lot of it has to do with greed. I'll admit that, greed. But other factors in the world are taking place. Socioeconomic demographics, cultural things, possible religious events that take place are not solely because of either capitalism or communism, but other factors. Of course, this article is blaming the massive wealth generated from capitalism has devastated the planet and failed to improve the human well-being at scale. Capitalism has done very well for some of the countries that it's operating in. Here in the United States, post-industrial revolution, the rise of the middle class, the amount of prosperity that the majority of the U.S. population was able to experience and enjoy for the last 150 years or so, 100 years easily. That is for us to enjoy. We created the wealth here. Americans built a lot. They expanded. Yes, it did come at the expense of the indigenous people here as well. I understand that. I will admit that. And it came at the expense of some other things. But it's not really the United States' role, or the role of any capitalist nation, to see to it that a country like the Congo, or Uganda, or Bolivia, or Laos, or let's just, any country out there. It's not the role of my country to see that your country improves its human well-being at scale. I'm just sorry. It's not my job. I look out for my family, my local community, and that's it. If you have a totalitarian regime in your country, or you have some tribal leader or dictator or caliphate or whatever you want to call it, it's your job to get up off of your butt, take up arms, and depose them, kill them, rebel against them, organize a resistance, do something, I don't know. Do what we did when we threw off the yoke of tyranny under the redcoats of England. Yeah, it's your job. I'm not going to help fix your country. And I think that extends to the entire United States government. This article is saying that capitalism had a responsibility somehow to see to it that it would improve human well-being at scale. Well, everyone's always saying that, the U.S. isn't the global police and we shouldn't be doing this and we shouldn't be doing that. And I agree. I'm a very non-interventionist in my views. So leave it up to those countries to fix their own backyard. Not my job. And if you're a neighbor to one of those countries, maybe you can get involved and help them. And then it says species are going extinct at a rate of 1,000 times faster than that of the natural rate over the previous 65 million years. So you mean to tell me humans, and right now this little form of exchange, because that's what capitalism is, it's a form of trade and exchange of monetary units, that itself is shifting 65 million years worth of species extinction rates? I don't think so. I think there's other things involved. Climate change might be happening, but it's not happening through anthropomorphic means, human cause change. I think there's a lot of other factors. It could be because a higher frequency of volcanoes erupting or forest fires creating carbon dioxide output. But there's other changes that could be taking place. Even things in space. We don't know all of it. The jury's still out. There's still science being debated. Again, just because something's a theory doesn't mean it's a fact. It's a theory. It's yet to be proven entirely. Since 2000, 6 million hectares of primary forest have been lost each year. Again, not all of that in capitalist countries. Some of that is taking place in communist countries, in socialist countries, and in third world basket case countries. So do not blame capitalism for these 6 million hectares. That's just an unjust label there. It's that little snippet of information alone could be expanded and clarified. It just goes to show you how baseless this crap article, this rag, is. Even in the U.S., 15% of the population lives below the poverty line. Many of them choose to live there. Hans Hermann Hoppe wrote an incredible article once years ago that I read, expounding upon how unemployment benefits and welfare exacerbate and increase unemployment in those who wish to be on it. Because once you start giving people money not to work, they will continue to stay in that state of being where they can get money and not work. And therefore they don't even seek employment. They choose to remain unemployed or part of the population that is in the poverty line area. So again, that's not capitalism's fault. If anything, that is could be blamed on socialism itself. The war on poverty has created and expanded poverty, if that makes any sense. So try to grasp that concept if you would. The world's population is expected to reach 10 billion by 2050. I don't see how that's capitalism's fault. And again, that's happening in non-capitalist countries. That's happening in other parts of the world. So please don't blame capitalism if you're having too many babies. Not my problem. Again, that article there, you can go look it up yourself. A lot of BS, a lot of hogwash, but let's move on. A lot of headlines out there pointing to things that are taking place around us right now about oil extending losses, banks failing. We've covered this in the previous videos. 5 signs that we might be in a bear market. I'm going to go ahead and say here's one sign we are in a bear market. 6,000 jobs eliminated in the oil field sector. We covered that recently. But now let's get into some predictions as we move towards talking about gold. Gold's obviously going to react in a way to a lot of the headlines we're going to cover right now. Jim Willie. If Deutsche Bank goes under, it'll be Lehman times 5. As many of you know, a little back history here. Lehman Brothers was one of the big financial institutions that set off the crisis and collapse of '08. But this gentleman's saying that if Deutsche Bank goes under, it will be Lehman times 5, which would devastate the world economy. With Deutsche Bank forced to issue a statement defending its liquidity today after its stock crashed 10% to financial crisis lows, implying that a $70 trillion derivatives book may be on the verge of collapse. We thought it appropriate to revisit Jim Willie's dire warning If Deutsche Bank goes down, it will be Lehman times 5. A bank failure contagion, that's what's going to push the price of gold way over 2,000 an ounce again. That's what they're claiming anyway. Again, I don't always agree with everything we read on here, but I am just passing on information to you. Could gold go to 2,000 or 5,000? It's very likely. I don't know those things. I do see it going up. I have said that in the past. Go back, watch some videos from early in this year where we've discussed this at length. Gold looked very promising going into 2016. From day one of this year, I have really pushed that gold was going to do well this year, and it's happening. What's silver going to do? Is it going to hit 100? I don't know. I don't see that happening. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion on silver. I think silver is a strong case for maybe $30, $40 an ounce. I don't see it hitting 100. Not anytime soon. Global economic and banking collapse on deck. That's a frightening series of words for anyone who's heavily tied to the markets. But here on the Junius Maltby channel, I think most of you are mentally and physically, psychologically prepared for a banking collapse. Yes, it might be on deck, but the bird people are not prepared. Interesting article coming in from the Telegraph here. The world can't afford another financial crash. It would destroy capitalism as we know it. Well, that would make the gentleman who wrote the first article happy. A new economic crisis would trigger a political backlash in Britain, Europe, and the United States, which could drag us all down into poverty. Okay, that article there outlines some things discussing how the world's basically still reeling from a decade of financial crisis and war and other factors, and the world is in no position and is in no way prepared for another calamity of that magnitude or greater. And I would happen to agree with that. I think the Fed and most government institutions and treasuries and so on are not prepared. They're not ready. They won't be able to handle it. They've already exhausted most measures and most fail-safes and triggers. Things that they have in place to protect us or protect them from such a collapse have already been done and executed. So now they're talking about, again, let's move on to negative interest rates. That's really the last stop, and it's hitting the news more and more and more. Happened in Japan. We covered it. We talked about it quickly on the channel just a couple videos ago. Just yesterday, negative interest rates was on the news here in the United States on National Public Radio. They're talking about it. Janet Yellen has talked about it. They're exploring it. It's being discussed. Bad idea. Just shows you how unhealthy the economy is. And you're seeing it, ladies and gentlemen, viewers, subscribers of the Junius Maltby channel. You are seeing panic. This is what panic looks like. Negative interest rates, and we're going to get into some other headlines. Remember that theme. The bird people are panicking. So let's talk about negative interest rates. This is an excerpt from that article. As I've previously mentioned, a world of negative rates is a very weird place. One where savers pay borrowers for the privilege of deferring consumption, and borrowers get compensated for bringing spending forward. An editorial in The Economist made the point well. Small savers would use any available form of payment, gift vouchers, long-term subscriptions, urban transport cards, or mobile phone SIM cards to avoid the cost of having money in the bank. That would be only the start of the topsy-turviness. Were interest rates negative enough for long enough, specialist security firms would emerge that would build vaults to store cash on behalf of big depositors and clear transfers between their customers' accounts. Firms would seek to make payments quickly and receive them slowly. Tax offices would discourage prompt settlement or overpayment of accounts. One Swiss canton has already stopped discounts for early tax payment and said it wants to receive money as late as possible. Just a brief window there into what a world of negative rates could potentially look like should it occur here in the U.S. Now, what is all of this panic causing, this talk of negative interest rates, the global economy on the verge? Well, in gold we trust. JP Morgan CIO says people have lost confidence in paper money. We've been talking about this for quite some time. Most of us here on the channel have lost confidence in paper money long, long ago. True news. Robert Michel, JP Morgan's Global Chief Investment Officer, said today's precious metals flight shows retail investors have more confidence in gold than paper money. His comments were made during an appearance today on CNBC's Squawk Box. Remember, squawk. That's what birds do. Bird people. Squawk Box. Where he said rhetorically, gold at $1,200 an ounce. What does that tell you? It tells you that in a flight to quality and a safe haven, people have more confidence in gold than in bank deposits or paper money. I think things have gotten out of control. Just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, when the going gets tough, the tough go to gold. That's, it is. I mean, it's always the same story. Look back. Remember the video we did long ago? Gold will eventually be worthless. Remember that? Remember the article on that? How everyone would just throw it off, the archaic and barbarous relic. Every time the world gets in this state of affairs, everybody instinctually and immediately goes back to gold. Immediate. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's unavoidable. It's unpreventable. It will happen until the end of time, just as it has been since the beginning of time. Lines around the block to buy gold in London. Banks placing an unusually large orders for physical. Again, this is what panic looks like. And it hasn't even started yet. Think about it. 99% of the people you pass on the street have no idea this is even happening right now. Bullion Buy Post, Britain's biggest online gold dealer, said it has already taken record day sales of £5.6 million as traders pile into gold following fears the world is on the brink of another financial crisis. Rob Halliday-Stein, founder and managing director of the Birmingham-based company, said takings today had already surpassed the firm's previous one-day record of £4.4 million in October of 2014. Gold rockets to 12-month high on safe haven demand amid spooked world marketplace. I've never liked gold, but I do now. This is from a trader quoted yesterday on CNBC's Power Lunch. If you're worried about your equity portfolio going lower, you buy gold as a hedge. If you did that in January 1st this year, it's worked wonderfully, he said Tuesday on CNBC's Power Lunch. Here's another investor some of you might know, somewhat famous, Mark Cuban. Like everybody else, I'm confused, he said. If this guy's confused with what's going on in the markets, imagine how many other people are confused. I'd say most. Mark Cuban sparks a berserk bet on gold. When it comes to gold traders, including billionaire investor Mark Cuban, returning to the options market, on CNBC's Fast Money halftime report on Thursday, Cuban said he bought a lot of call options gold in response to widespread confusion over tumultuous markets. When traders don't know what to do, they go where everybody is. And I thought there was a good chance that would be gold, Cuban said. Gold soars over $50 an ounce to the highest finish in a year. Again, that was yesterday, up about $52. Article about Russia, gold possibly saving their ruble. Why is that? Well, Russia was buying a ton of gold, a lot of gold. And in 2016, the ruble was skirted with all-time lows as crude oil collapsed. U.S. and European sanctions cut off lines to cheap credit, and inflation is pushing double digits. However, the rising price of gold could give the ruble a reprieve and even save the currency. Because why? The Russians have a lot of gold. They've been buying it for a long time. In 2015, Russia increased its reserves by 208.4 metric tons to 1,415 metric tons total. That's a 17% increase. The total value at the end of December was around $48.6 billion, when gold was trading at its 6-year lows of 1,062. Now, with the massive rise of gold since the end of 2015, the expected value of Russia's reserves is around $61.8 billion. So there you go. Good move, Putin. Not a bad decision there. A little bit different than that old Gordon Brown, that chubby Brit. right? Sold all his gold at the low and bought mortgage-backed securities. Pretty much broke the economy in England. What a buffoon, what a clown, what a teetotaling moron. Gold, a hedge against ignorance. Investors are cautiously returning to a fickle market. Gold demand trends, full year 2015. This was published February 11th, 2016. World Gold Council report. Gold demand in the fourth quarter increased 4% year on year to a 10-quarter high. This is incredible stuff here, guys. Gold is in demand. And I was reading just recently, see, this is going to tell you on the bottom here that supply was up only 1%. I just read another article, and I don't have it here, but that supply dipped down 3%. So what we're seeing, in summary of this little snippet of information here, a major increase in demand for gold globally, but also a slowdown and reduction in supply. So there's a disparity there. Gold is reacting to a lot of things, and one of them, I believe, major supply shortages, major demand increases. That's going to create a price increase right there. So, in summary, world is still in chaos. 2016 is looking crazy. We're seeing calls for negative interest rates. We're seeing a reduction in the supply of gold and an explosion of demand in almost all areas, whether it's central banks, individual investors, or just mom and pops and people like you and me on the street. People do not want to be exposed to the risks and the gambling casinos that the stock market and Wall Street have come to be known as. People want security, they want their wealth, their dynasty, their hard-earned labor locked up, safe, and secure, and one of the ways they're doing that is putting it into gold. So this is Junius Maltby Channel signing out for today. Hope you enjoyed the quick run through the headlines. Stay encouraged, stay strong, keep stacking. And as always, thanks for being part of the Junius Maltby Channel. Have a good day.